Hello friends, as you all know that from 1st of July 2017 we have entered into a new era of taxation, that is goods and service tax, right? So you all must be knowing this goods and service tax, which has been introduced from 1st of July 2017 in India, right? So now I'll try to explain the certain provisions of this goods and service tax, right, in a very simplified manner. This goods and service tax will become the part of curriculum. I guess it has already become a part of the curriculum of many courses like CA courses, BCom level, and even at the Commerce +1 +2 level, some part of goods and service tax has been introduced. So it is quite important for you people to understand the provisions of goods and service tax, that what is the goods and service tax, why it has been introduced in India, why there was a need for this tax, right? So now if I talk of taxes in India, basically we have two types of taxes. One is the direct taxes, right, and the other one is indirect taxes. What are direct taxes? Direct taxes are the taxes which are directly being imposed on your income, like income tax. Then we have wealth tax, right, that are directly related to whatever you are earning from your business. These are direct taxes. And talking of indirect taxes, now we have two periods, that is before 1st of July 2017 and after 1st of July 2017. So now in the indirect taxes we have two periods. What was the scenario before 1st of July 17 and what is going to be the scenario after 1st of July 2017, right? Now if we talk of before 1st of July 2017, there were multiple indirect taxes like excise. Then we have the state VAT laws. Then we have central sales tax, CST, and many other taxes like this, right? But after 1st of July 2017, we are going to have just one tax, that is goods and service tax, GST, right? So this is the tax structure in India. If we talk of taxes, we have direct taxes and the indirect taxes. Direct taxes, that is the tax being imposed directly on your income. It consists of income tax, wealth tax, right? And talking of indirect taxes, we have basically two periods now, that is before 1st of July 2017 and after 1st of July 2017, right? So from 1st of July we have entered into a new era of indirect taxation. We have entered into a new era of indirect taxation with the introduction of GST, that is goods and service tax, right? Now why this goods and service tax has been introduced, why there was a need of this kind of a tax? If we see goods and service tax, now if you want to understand that why there was a need to have this kind of a tax, let's go to the period before 1st of July. Let us understand the scenario, what was there before 1st of July 2017. Now, before 1st of July, these two terms were being treated separately. Goods were being treated separately and services being treated separately. There were separate laws for goods and there were separate laws for services. Like for the goods, there were excise laws, right? There were CST, state VAT laws, right? And likewise many other laws for the goods. And for the services, there was Service Tax Act, right? So before this, the introduction of GST, before introduction of goods and service tax, that is before 1st of July 2017, these two terms, goods and services, they were being treated separately. Goods were being taxed under the various laws like excise laws, CST, state VAT laws, and the services being administered by Service Tax Act, right? But after 1/7/2017, that is 1st July 17, both goods and services have been covered under the one act, that is Goods and Service Tax. See, just before 1st of July, many people were anticipating that this tax will not come from 1st of July and it will get delayed at least by a few months. Even the few political parties were demanding that this tax should be delayed by 6 months. Some were saying it should be delayed by 1 year, right? But it is important to know here that why it has been introduced, because it was a constitutional binding on the government to bring GST before 16th of September 2017, right? Government was bound to bring this act before 16th of September 2017 because from 16th of September the validity of these acts, the validity of excise laws, the validity of the state VAT laws, Service Tax Act will get zero. The validity will be nullified. They will not be valid in India, right? So the government as decided, they introduced the goods and service tax from 1st of July 2017, replacing multiple taxes with the one tax, right? See, there were multiple taxes before 1st of July because the goods were treated under the separate acts and the services were treated under the separate act. Goods were treated under excise laws, CST, state VAT laws, and services under the Service Tax Act. Now, all this has been replaced by goods and service tax, right? GST. It covers both goods and services, right? So why there was a need to introduce this GST? The first reason is to remove the multiplicity of taxes. There were multiple taxes in India for the goods and the services. So to reduce multiple taxes, we have brought one tax, that is goods and service tax, right? So this was one major reason of bringing GST in India. Now, what was happening with the multiplicity of taxes? If we have multiple taxes, we have excise laws, we have CST, we have state VAT laws. So what was the problem with these laws? The major problem was the compliance problems. The major problem was the compliance problem. Because the majority of the time for any business is lost in the compliance of these laws. They have to pay the excise, right, to the excise department. Then the state VAT laws, they demand the VAT. So there were a lot of compliances for the business when they have to deal with the multiple taxes, they have to deal with the multiple departments. There were excise departments, there were VAT departments, there were CST departments, there was service tax department. So a single person, a single businessman has to deal with the multiple departments. Now all these departments have been merged into one department that is known as goods and service tax. So it brings a little bit of ease for the business in dealing with the various departments. Now businessman is clear about one thing, that he has to deal with only one tax, that is goods and service tax. He doesn't have to deal with the excise, he doesn't have to deal with the VAT department, he doesn't have to deal with the service tax department. There is only one department, that is goods and service tax. Right? Now the second thing was, this is one thing, that is compliance. Second thing was multiple rates. How there were multiple rates? Talking of state VAT laws, every state in India has its own state VAT laws. Every state in India is having its own VAT laws. So if you go to Delhi to buy a product, the VAT rate applicable might be at the rate of 5.5%. The same product in Haryana might be taxed at the rate of VAT at the rate of 6.05%. And then if you go to Punjab, there it might be getting taxed at VAT at the rate of 4%. So for a single product in the country, there were multiple tax rates. There were multiple tax rates. If you buy a product in Punjab, the tax rate might be different. And if you go and buy the product in Delhi or Haryana, the VAT rate will be different. There was no uniformity in the taxes. Right? There was no uniformity in the tax structure. So you can say the second reason for bringing GST in India was to bring uniformity in the tax structure. No uniformity in tax structure. Right? So this was again one major reason for bringing goods and service tax to India. Removing the multiple tax rates and bringing the uniformity in the tax rates. Right? Under goods and service tax, we have, for a product, we have one tax rate across country. One tax rate across nation for a product. Right? So you purchase an air conditioner either from Punjab or Delhi or Haryana, you will be taxed at a single rate and not at the different rates. Right? That is why the goods and service tax has been called as one nation, one tax. Right? This is the slogan of GST, one nation, one tax. Right? So coming back to the era before goods and service tax, the first reason for bringing goods and service tax was compliances, to reduce the number of compliances, number of returns, number of tax payments. Right? Second was to bring uniformity in the tax structure, because before goods and service tax there were multiple rates under the different state VAT laws. Right? For a single product, if you go to the Punjab, you will get the product, you will be taxed at a different rate, and if you go and buy in Delhi, the tax on that product will be at a different rate. So there was no uniformity in the tax structure, and because of that, they thought of bringing a single tax that is known as goods and service tax. Right? Then one major reason for bringing goods and service tax is cascading effect. Removing cascading effect. Now, before this introduction of GST, this cascading effect was present in the indirect tax system. Before GST, the cascading effect was there in the indirect system. Now, what is a cascading effect? This is quite important to understand. Right? In the simple terms, if I say what is cascading, cascading means tax on tax. Now you will say, what does this mean? Let us try to understand with the help of an example. Now suppose you are a manufacturer. You are a manufacturer. Right? You have produced goods worth rupees 1 lakh. Now what is happening under the present system? Present system means before goods and service tax, right? So what was happening before 1st of July 2017? Whenever you have produced the goods, you have to pay excise on that. Say 15% excise you are paying on that. 15,000. Now your cost of goods has increased to 1,15,000. Right? So the excise duty is paid whenever there is a manufacturer, right? And you have manufactured the goods. As soon as you are manufacturing the goods, your liability to pay the excise duty to the government arises. That means as soon as you have made a product, you have manufactured a product, you have to pay excise duty on the cost of that product. Right? Say you produced a goods worth rupees 1 lakh, so you have to pay the excise duty, say 15%, 15,000. So your cost will increase by 15,000, say 1,15,000. Now, this is at the time of manufacture. Now, when you are going to sell these products, you will have to pay the state VAT also. You will have to pay the state VAT also. Say 10% is the state VAT. So this will be 11,500. What is the total cost? 6, 2 and 1. 1,26,000. So what we have done is, we have taxed this tax also, because this tax is included in this value of 1,15,000, and on this we are applying the VAT of 10%. So that means we have paid tax on tax. There is cascading effect. There is a cascading effect. Right? How this cascading effect is working? That means you are paying tax on tax. Now you are paying VAT on excise duty also. First you have paid the excise duty, then on that excise duty you are paying the VAT also. So this is double taxation. You are paying tax to the government twice on a product. You have produced a goods worth rupees 1 lakh. On that, first on the manufacturer you will pay excise of 15%, say you will pay 15,000 as tax to the government, right? And then you will pay the VAT at the time of sale of the product, and VAT will be paid on goods plus the excise duty. That means the government is making a fool of you. The government was charging tax on tax. VAT being applied on goods plus the service tax. right? So you paid tax first, excise duty, then again you are paying the tax on excise duty also, right? Now if you see the current scenario, if I talk of GST, suppose you produced goods worth rupees 1 lakh. Now on the manufacturer you don't have to pay anything. Say the GST is 18%, right? So you have to pay 18,000 only. 1 lakh 18,000. So there is no cascading effect. There is no tax on tax. Why the value was increasing? Because we were paying tax on already paid tax. Here there is no already paid tax. What you are paying is on the value of the goods, right? So this is one major reason of bringing GST in India, that is removing the cascading effect, removing tax on tax system, right? Tax cascading effect, tax on tax. This is a very wrong practice, right, which was there before 1st of July 2017, and this practice will be removed under GST, goods and service tax, right? So friends, these were the major reasons why GST has been introduced in India, right? And one thing I can be sure of, that this is definitely going to help in the growth of India, right? If its implementation is properly followed up, this is definitely going to help in the growth of India, right? Will move in the positive direction. There may be short-term hiccups, but if we see the long-term impact, definitely it is a positive move. It is positive move in the direction of growth, right? So I hope this much is understandable, that why this goods and service tax, which has been introduced from 1st of July 2017, why this has been introduced in India, right? To reduce the compliances, to remove the multiple rates of tax on a single product. There will be one tax rate now, right? And the important one was to remove the cascading effect. Cascading means we are paying tax on tax, right? Like we have paid the VAT on excise duty also, we are paying VAT on excise also, right? So in the next lecture I'll be discussing more provisions on this. On the next lecture we'll be discussing some more provisions relating to GST. Some basic terms we'll be discussing, like supply. We'll discuss about the types of transactions that will be under GST, and what are the various types of taxes under GST, right? So this is what we will discuss in the next lecture, right friends? So that's all for this lecture, friends. Thank you so much.